Some meetings are written by fate, and some, well, they happen because of a simple, honest mistake, the kind of mistake that can change your life forever. He walked into the restaurant that evening, holding his little daughter Lily's hand. Hopeful, a little nervous, but ready to open his heart to the possibility of love. Only, instead of sitting at the right table where his date was supposed to be waiting, he sat at the wrong one. Not table number 9, the one carefully arranged for the evening, but table number 6, where a woman he had never met sat quietly across from her young son, whose bright eyes sparkled with curiosity. William smiled, a bit awkward but genuine. He had no idea that the words about to leave his mouth would change everything. "I'm William. I don't have much, just an old car and a fridge that makes more noise than a freight train. But I do have an honest heart." And right there, in that unexpected moment, the course of their lives quietly shifted. Before we begin the story, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. William Parker stepped into the softly lit restaurant on a warm spring evening, his hand gently holding that of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. There was hope in his eyes. But if you looked closely, you'd also catch a flicker of uncertainty, tucked behind the easy smile he gave his little girl. Lily skipped along beside him, her golden curls bouncing, her bright eyes filled with excitement. She looked up at her father and whispered, "We're going to meet her tonight, right, Daddy?" William nodded with a soft smile, though his chest tightened with nerves. This was his first date since losing his wife. And if he was honest, he wasn't sure his heart was ready. But his sister had insisted. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to try again. Now, here's what makes this story different. William Parker wasn't just any man. He was the CEO of one of the city's largest real estate empires, wealthy beyond imagination. But he had learned the hard way that money complicates things. Too often people saw his fortune before they ever saw the man. So tonight, he came as simply William. No expensive suit, no luxury watch. Just a well-worn shirt, khaki pants, and an old car parked outside. A man stripped of status, hoping to find someone who might care for the person beneath the success. As he scanned the table numbers, balancing Lily's chatter about needing extra ice cream, William's eyes landed on table 6. Distracted, he led Lily over and paused there, not realizing he was standing at the wrong table. Sitting across from him was Sophia, a young single mother, her soft features touched by the fatigue of someone who has carried too much alone for too long. Beside her sat Max, a boy about Lily's age, his brown hair tousled, his eyes bright with curiosity as he carefully stacked coffee stirrers into a little bridge on the table. William, unaware of his mistake, gave one of those warm, disarming smiles that made people instinctively feel at ease. He pulled out the chair and sat down. "Hi, I'm William," he began honestly. "I don't have much, just an old car and a fridge that rattles louder than a freight train. But I do have a good heart." Sophia blinked, caught between confusion and politeness. Her gaze flickered around the room, then back to Max, who was now eyeing William with the wide-eyed interest only a child can give. Before she could explain the mistake, Max leaned forward, completely earnest, and blurted out, "Mom, I like this guy. Can he be my new dad?" The words landed like a pebble tossed into still water, rippling through the space between them. A few nearby diners paused, their smiles soft and knowing. Sophia's cheeks flushed a deep red, her lips parting as she scrambled for a response. But William laughed. Not the polite, uncomfortable chuckle of someone trying to save face, but a genuine, heartfelt laugh that rolled out freely. He shook his head slightly, amused, and looked down at Lily, who was now grinning at Max as if they'd been friends forever. "My daddy makes terrible pancakes too," Lily offered cheerfully, "but he always lets me have ice cream when he burns them." In that small, unexpected moment, amid innocent smiles and a wrong table, none of them realized their lives had just quietly shifted. They didn't know yet, but this was the start of something neither Sophia nor William had planned for. And if you lean in a little closer, you might hear the soft whisper of fate. Sophia doesn't know yet that the humble man sitting across from her isn't who he says he is. He isn't just some struggling single father. He is William Parker, a millionaire searching for the one thing money can't buy: real love. The restaurant buzzed softly that evening, a warm hum of quiet conversation and the gentle clink of silverware against plates. Candles flickered on every table, casting soft halos of light across white tablecloths. Somewhere in the background, a piano played the kind of tune that made you want to lean in just a little closer. At table 6, a table meant for a simple dinner between a mother and her son, sat Sophia, still not entirely sure how she'd ended up sharing the evening with a man who clearly wasn't meant to be there. But there he was, William Parker. Dressed simply, no designer suit, no polished watch ticking away the hours of the rich. Just a man, sitting across from her with a gentle smile, his daughter Lily perched beside him, swinging her legs under the table. Sophia could have sent him away. She probably should have. But there was something about the way Lily's eyes sparkled, the way Max leaned in, fascinated by this stranger who spoke with such ease. And maybe it had just been too long since someone had looked at her the way William did. Not as if she were a problem to be solved, but as if she were simply interesting. So, she stayed. And so did he. The waiter came and went, and before anyone realized it, orders had been placed. 2 kids' meals, and something simple for the adults. No pretense, no awkward excuses. Just an unexpected dinner shared between 2 people who, for reasons neither of them could quite explain, decided to see where the evening might lead. William leaned back slightly, folding his napkin with the kind of nervous care that only made him more human. He glanced over at Max and Lily, who by now were deep in discussion about the superior qualities of superheroes versus dinosaurs. And then, turning back to Sophia, he grinned. "So," he began, "I'll be honest with you. My daughter thinks I'm a terrible cook. She's not wrong." He gave a little shrug, his smile sheepish. "I've burned more pancakes than I can count. Last week my attempt at mac and cheese turned into, well, let's just say we ended up ordering pizza." Sophia chuckled, despite herself, the sound soft, the tension easing from her shoulders. William pressed on, his tone light but honest. "And the fridge? It's loud enough to wake the neighbors. I'm not kidding. Sometimes I think it's trying to start a band." That earned him a real laugh from her, the kind that comes from surprise, from not expecting to enjoy yourself, but finding that you are, anyway. Across the table, Max and Lily began swapping napkins like trading cards, folding them into what barely passed as paper airplanes, giggling as they watched them flop onto the table. It was, by every account, an ordinary moment. But sometimes ordinary is exactly what the heart needs most. William leaned in a bit, voice lowering just enough to feel personal. "I'm not rich in the ways that count," he said softly, "but I can give honesty. I can give care. I can give my whole heart if someone's willing to take it." There was a pause then, the kind that lets the words settle, not rushed, not forced. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. There was no arrogance in his eyes, no rehearsed lines, just a man, maybe a little clumsy with his words but steady, sincere. And yet, dear listener, there's something you should know, something Sophia hasn't learned just yet. This man across from her this humble, charming, pancake-burning father, is not as simple as he seems. Because William Parker is not a struggling single dad. He is a millionaire, a man with more wealth than most could imagine. And he's hiding it, not to deceive, but out of a desperate hope that someone might, for once, see the man before they see the money. But tonight, none of that matters. Tonight, there's laughter at the table. 2 children making friends faster than grown-ups ever could. 2 hearts, hesitant but curious, leaning just a little closer across a table neither of them planned to share. And somewhere, beneath the soft glow of the candles, the first threads of something real begin to weave quietly between them. There's a quiet kind of magic in the way simple moments weave people together. It wasn't one grand gesture that brought them closer. No sweeping declarations or candle-lit confessions. No, it was the small things, the ordinary things, that did it. A sunny afternoon at the city park, where the air smelled faintly of fresh grass and cotton candy from a nearby vendor. Lily and Max ran circles around a patchy picnic blanket, their laughter echoing between the trees like little bursts of sunlight. They chased each other, tumbling into giggles, while their parents watched from the shade, smiles soft but cautious. William sat cross-legged on the blanket, clumsily unwrapping sandwiches he'd made himself, ham and cheese, slightly squished, the bread a little uneven. Across from him, Sophia tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, biting back a grin as he struggled with the plastic wrap. "I'm guessing you're not a 5-star chef?" she teased gently. William gave a half-hearted shrug, his smile sheepish. "I'm working on my presentation. Next time I might even cut off the crusts." The way he said it, light, self-deprecating but warm, made her laugh more than the joke itself. There was an ease between them that hadn't been there at first. It crept in slowly, through shared stories about hectic mornings and missed buses, through the chaos of burnt pancakes and the embarrassing confessions of failed dinner experiments. Some afternoons they baked together in Sophia's small kitchen. The counter always ended up dusted in flour, little handprints trailing across the surfaces as Max and Lily competed to see who could crack the most eggs without making a mess. Spoiler, neither of them won. Sophia laughed more on those days, real, unguarded laughter that she hadn't realized she'd been missing. And William, he watched her. Not in the way a man admires from a distance, but in the way someone pays close attention to the quiet details. How she smiled at Max when he wasn't looking. How her eyes softened when Lily leaned against her shoulder. It would have been easy, in those moments, to believe that life could stay this simple. But nothing about William Parker was simple. You see, William was falling for her. Slowly, cautiously, but falling all the same. And with every shared afternoon, every child's giggle, every meal cobbled together with too much butter and not enough skill, the weight of the lie he carried pressed a little heavier against his chest. He wasn't the man he claimed to be. Not really. Behind the laid-back smile, behind the modest apartment and the clumsy sandwiches, stood a millionaire, a man with a name that could buy him rooms full of yeses. And the deeper he stepped into this quiet, hopeful rhythm with Sophia and Max, the more terrified he became. Because he knew, when the truth came out, and it always does, he might lose all of it, the easy laughter, the trust in her eyes, the soft, messy, beautiful little family they were becoming. And so, he smiled. He played the part. He helped Max tie his shoes and clapped the loudest when Lily's paper kite caught the wind just right. But late at night, when the kids were asleep and the noise of the day had settled into silence, William sat alone, staring at the ceiling, wondering just how long this beautiful lie could hold, and if it was already too late to tell the truth. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt tales like this one. But stay with me, because things are about to get complicated. Let's see what happens when the truth finally comes to light. It was supposed to be a simple celebration, just balloons, cake, and the laughter of children. Lily's birthday party was held in a modest rented hall. Nothing extravagant, nothing flashy. Paper streamers hung loosely from the ceiling, a little crooked in places where the kids had tugged at them. On one corner table, homemade cupcakes sat beside a bowl of store-bought candy. Simple. Sweet. Exactly how William had planned it. Sophia was there, standing near the back, watching Max and Lily chase each other around the room. Her guard had begun to lower. These past few weeks, they felt real. William caught her eye across the room. He gave a soft smile, that familiar, easy smile, the one that had made her want to believe again. But sometimes, even the gentlest moments carry a shadow. It happened so quickly. A woman in heels, dressed sharper than anyone else in the room, stepped up beside William with a laugh that cut through the noise. "Well, if it isn't Mr. Parker," she greeted, voice dripping with recognition. "Always the humble one, aren't you? CEO of half the city, but here you are, throwing your daughter a charming little party." The words fell into the space between them like stones into still water. Sophia heard it. Every syllable. She didn't react at first, not on the outside, but inside, something shifted. A slow, sinking weight in the pit of her stomach. Mr. Parker. CEO. She had heard that name before. Read it. On billboards. In news articles. She knew it. And now, the puzzle pieces she had ignored, the little things she'd brushed aside, the way he spoke with quiet authority, the perfectly tailored clothes that didn't quite match his simple life story, they snapped into place, one after the other. Her breath caught. Her heart sank. William's eyes met hers. He knew the moment she understood. The room felt too bright, too loud. But Sophia's voice, when she spoke, was barely more than a whisper. "Max, come here, sweetheart." The little boy didn't notice the change in her tone. He ran to her, still smiling, still full of the joy of the day. She reached down, took his small hand in hers, fingers squeezing just a little tighter than necessary. William stepped forward, his lips parting, ready to explain. But no words came out. Sophia didn't wait for them. She turned, slowly, carefully, like someone holding a fragile thing that might shatter if she moved too fast. Max tugged at her hand, looking up at her, confused. "But Mom..." His voice was soft, uncertain. "I like him. I like our new dad." She knelt, brushing his hair back, her eyes shining with unshed tears, but she said nothing. Across the room, William stood frozen, the decorations blurred in his vision, the sounds of children laughing, plates clinking, all of it faded into a dull, distant hum. He had built this moment so carefully. All the gentle afternoons, the stories, the meals shared, the small joys stitched together day by day, and with one careless word from a stranger, it all began to unravel. Because the truth was never the problem. It was the lie, the choice to hide, that broke the trust before it even had a chance to take root. And now, standing there, watching the woman he had come to care for walk away with her son, William Parker realized he hadn't just lost their trust, he had lost everything that mattered. William lost it all, because of one lie, born from the fear of not being loved for who he really was. William Parker didn't offer excuses. He didn't send flowers. He didn't call in favors or lean on charm. Instead, he moved into the small, drafty apartment he hadn't set foot in for years, the place he used to live before the boardrooms, before the fortune, before the walls around his heart grew so tall. The apartment was nothing special. A leaky faucet in the kitchen, a crooked cabinet door that never quite closed right. The hum of the old refrigerator filled the silence, steady and loud, as if reminding him, "This is who you said you were." And now it was time to live like it. Morning came with the hiss of a skillet and the scent of batter burning too fast on high heat. His first attempt at pancakes was a disaster, lopsided, scorched, stubbornly stuck to the pan. He stood there in the small kitchen, flipping one charred piece onto a plate, staring at it like it might hold the answer to everything he didn't know how to say. He didn't send a long message, didn't beg for forgiveness. Just snapped a photo. The pancake, blackened at the edges, sitting awkwardly on the plate like it knew it had failed the audition. Alongside the picture, a single line of text. "I've never done anything harder than this, but I've never wanted anything more real, no punctuation, no clever words, just truth." The message blinked delivered on Sophia's screen that evening. She sat on the worn couch in her small living room, Max playing quietly on the floor nearby. The soft glow of the lamp barely reached the corner where her phone vibrated. She read it once, then again, and said nothing. Her fingers hovered over the reply for a moment, then retreated. She locked the screen and placed the phone face down on the coffee table. But her eyes lingered there, as if she could still feel the weight of those simple words pressing through the glass. Outside, the night moved on. Inside, something softened, barely, but enough. Sophia didn't text back. She didn't need to. Not yet. But William's message had found its place. A small crack in the ice, a breath of warm air against the wall she had every reason to keep standing. Because sometimes, it isn't the grand gestures that begin to mend what's broken. Sometimes, it's a burnt pancake, and a man finally learning how to tell the truth. The knock came late one afternoon, steady, deliberate, the kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. Lucas, Max's biological father, the man who had walked away years ago without a second glance, now standing at Sophia's door, wearing a smile too smooth, too practiced. His suit was sharper than his intentions, his eyes scanning the small apartment like he was sizing it up for something more than just a visit. "I heard you've met someone," Lucas began casually, leaning against the doorframe as if he belonged there. "Big shot real estate guy, right? William Parker." Sophia's arms crossed over her chest, her jaw tight. "What do you want, Lucas?" The smile stayed, but the tone shifted. "I want to see my son." But there was no warmth in the way he said it. No fatherly ache, no regret, just entitlement, calculation, like Max was a chip on the table in a game Lucas had just decided to play. Sophia didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached for her phone. When William arrived, he didn't come in anger. He didn't come loud. He came steady. Calm. Like a man who knew exactly what he was walking into, and exactly what he was willing to do. He faced Lucas squarely, eyes steady, voice low but unshakable. "So," William said, standing between Lucas and the woman and child he had come to care for. "You disappeared for how long? 6 years? And now you're back because you heard my name?" Lucas shrugged, careless. "I'm still his father. I have rights." William didn't blink. Rights? His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Where were your rights when Max was sick with the flu at 3 a.m? When Sophia worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on? When that boy needed a father to show up for his first day of school?" Lucas's grin faltered. Just a crack. William took a step closer, his words deliberate, each one sharp as glass. "You want money? You won't get it from me. You want leverage? Forget it. You don't get to walk in here after all these years and act like this boy is your pawn." Silence. Then William's voice dropped even lower, not a threat, but a vow. "I will protect Max, from you, from anyone, with everything I have." The weight of those words filled the room. Final. Unyielding. Lucas looked at him, the bravado draining from his expression. He searched for something clever to say, but found nothing. Because the truth stood right there in front of him, steady as stone. William Parker. Not just a wealthy man, not just the millionaire Lucas thought he could outplay, but a father. In every way that mattered. Lucas didn't go quietly at first. Men like him rarely do. For days after their confrontation, he tossed around threats like loose change, calling, showing up unannounced, making noise about his rights. But words, William knew, are easy. Proof is something else entirely. And William Parker, he came prepared. In the weeks that followed, William moved carefully, deliberately. He didn't argue. He didn't posture. He let the facts do the speaking. Late nights, he sat with a quiet resolve at his dining table, folders spread out before him. School records, medical files, text logs, absence reports. A timeline, laid bare, of every year Lucas had been gone. Every birthday missed. Every call that never came. The life of a child growing up without the man who now claimed to care. Alongside him sat one of the city's most respected family attorneys, not hired to fight with anger, but to stand with integrity. Calm, steady. When the day came for Lucas to meet with William's legal team, the conversation was short. William didn't need to raise his voice, didn't need to intimidate. All he did was present the truth. Page after page, evidence upon evidence, document after document of a man who had forfeited his place in his son's life long before William ever stepped into the picture. Across the table, Lucas shifted, his bravado peeling away like old paint. The smirk faded. The excuses crumbled. Cornered not by threats, but by the undeniable weight of his own absence. And when the final piece of paper slid across the table, the agreement to voluntarily terminate parental rights, there was no argument left to make. No one forced Lucas to sign. But under the shadow of his own choices, he did. For Max, the man who had only ever been a stranger on the sidelines, was finally gone for good. When William returned home that evening, he didn't celebrate. There were no grand speeches, no victories shouted from the rooftops. Instead, he knelt down beside Max, who sat cross-legged on the floor, quietly building a Lego tower with Lily. William rested a hand on the boy's back, steady and warm. "You're safe now," he said softly. "No one's going to take that away." Max didn't fully understand the details, but he felt it. The security, the promise, and sometimes, for a child, that's enough. The truth is, William hadn't won anything. He had simply done what real fathers do. He showed up. He stood his ground. And when it mattered most, he chose action over words. Because love, the kind that holds steady through the hardest storms, is always proven by what we do, not just what we say. William protected Max not with anger, but with strength. Not with pride, but with heart. And in doing so, he showed Sophia, Max, and even himself the kind of man he truly was. Their story was beginning to turn a page. If you believe that honesty and love are what build true happiness, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Stay with us. The journey continues. The park looked almost the same as that very first night. The same winding path, the same tall oaks swaying gently under the soft breath of the afternoon breeze. The sun hung low, casting golden ribbons of light through the leaves, the air touched with the quiet rustle of late summer. But this time, something was different. In a small clearing, The same place where their story had begun by accident stood a simple arch of wildflowers. Not perfect, not polished. Some stems leaned too far, a few blooms hung a little awkward. But it was honest, hand-tied, humble, real. William had done it himself. No decorators, no grand arrangements, just his 2 hands, some borrowed ribbon, and the help of 2 giggling children who insisted on picking the brightest flowers they could find. There, beneath that arch, Max and Lily stood side by side, each holding a small pillow, their little fingers clinging tightly to the soft fabric, as if guarding the moment itself. Sophia arrived quietly, led by Max's excited tug on her hand. She wasn't prepared for what she saw. There was no crowd, no music, no spectacle. Just William, waiting. Standing still beneath the arch with his hands loosely clasped, nervous and hopeful all at once. His jacket slightly wrinkled from the effort of tying flowers, his hair ruffled by the wind. When their eyes met, there were no grand speeches, no rehearsed lines, just the kind of silence that says everything. William took a breath, stepped forward, and knelt on one knee. Not with the stiffness of ceremony, but with the softness of someone laying down his pride. His voice came steady but quiet, words simple, stripped of anything fancy. "I'm not here to promise you a fairy tale," he began. "I know life doesn't work like that." He looked up at her, eyes filled with the weight of everything they had been through, the missteps, the laughter, the fights, the forgiveness. "I can't offer perfect, but I can offer real, all of me. My best days, my worst days, my burnt pancakes and my loud old fridge, every Sunday, every ordinary, beautiful moment, if you'll have me." The children stood frozen, wide-eyed, holding their breath as if the whole world depended on Sophia's next word. She didn't speak right away. Her hand came up slowly, brushing away the tears that spilled faster than she could catch them. Then came the softest nod. And through the crack of her voice, filled with both laughter and tears, she whispered the only answer she could give. 1,000 times. Yes. William rose, his eyes never leaving hers. He reached out, slipping the simple ring, no giant diamond, no display of wealth, onto her finger. Just a plain silver band, chosen not for its price, but for its meaning. The children couldn't hold back any longer. Max threw his arms around William's waist. Lily wrapped herself tightly around Sophia. There, beneath the arch of wildflowers, they stood. 4 people, not perfect, not polished, but finally whole. Because sometimes, love isn't about the grand gestures. Sometimes, it's about choosing each other, again and again. One honest moment at a time. And on that quiet afternoon, where it all began, William and Sophia chose to begin again, together. There was no marble driveway, no iron gates, no sprawling mansion perched on a hill. Instead, there was a small white house, tucked quietly at the edge of a meadow, where the wildflowers grew freely, and the grass danced with the breeze. A vegetable garden sprawled a little unevenly along one side of the yard, tomatoes climbing their stakes, green beans curling toward the sun. And behind the house, a single old swing hung from the strongest branch of the tallest oak. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. The mornings here began with the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of bare feet padding across wooden floors. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, catching the dust in soft golden beams as if the house itself exhaled peace. Max and Lily were almost always the first to wake, their laughter floating down the hallway long before the day officially began. Some days they built forts from couch cushions. Other days they raced barefoot through the dewy grass, their voices echoing like bright little bells across the open field. And William and Sophia, they stood side by side on the front porch, coffee mugs in hand, leaning against the railing worn smooth by time. Neither spoke much in those early hours. They didn't have to. There's a kind of language in shared silence. They watched the children chase each other beneath the clear blue sky, their arms outstretched like wings, faces tilted up to the sun. The happiness there was so simple, so honest, it didn't need explanation. William smiled, soft and sure, as he glanced at Sophia. His hand brushed gently against hers, fingers finding hers naturally without thinking. "If I could do it all over again," he said quietly, eyes still on the children, "I'd sit at the wrong table every single time." Sophia turned toward him, her gaze warm, steady, and with that soft smile, the one he had come to love most, she whispered back, "That mistake was the best thing that ever happened to us." There was no audience to witness the moment, no applause, no spectacle, just the creak of the porch swing, the scent of rosemary from the garden, and the gentle hum of life, lived honestly. This was their wealth, the real kind, not the kind measured in square footage or dollar signs, but in shared glances, held hands, and the laughter of two children playing freely beneath the wide, forgiving sky. And in the quiet of that golden morning, with nothing but the simple joy of being together, they knew. They were exactly where they were meant to be. The invitation arrived on thick, glossy paper, embossed letters, the kind that catch the light just right. National Business Leader of the Year. A ceremony that promised prestige, cameras, handshakes with powerful men in sharp suits. It should have felt like a pinnacle. Once it might have. But the moment William read the date, his heart sank quietly. The same night as Max's school play. Nothing grand, just the elementary school auditorium with its creaky folding chairs and handmade backdrops. The kind of stage where the paint on the props chips at the corners and the spotlight flickers now and then. The kind of place where memories get made, even if the curtain rod sticks. Max had practiced his lines for weeks, pacing the living room, arms stiffly outstretched as he declared, "I am the great oak tree, strong and tall," his eyes shining, chest puffed out, little hands clutching the paper script so tightly the edges frayed. And now, here was the choice. Glory, or presence, recognition from strangers, or the steady, quiet pride of a child looking out into the crowd, hoping, praying, to see his dad sitting there. William didn't hesitate. The RSVP card for the gala sat untouched on his desk. Instead, that evening, he sat on the hard wooden bench of the school auditorium, his suit jacket swapped for something simple. No cameras, no speeches, just him, folded playbill in hand, waiting. The lights dimmed. The chatter of parents softened into an expectant hush. On stage, a line of children shuffled into place, some fidgeting, some waving awkwardly at the audience. And there was Max, standing tall, arms stretched out like sturdy branches, wearing a cardboard tree costume that tilted slightly to one side. His cheeks flushed with nervous excitement, his eyes searching. Then they found him. William sat up a little straighter, meeting his son's gaze with a smile that spoke volumes, steady, proud, entirely present. Max's shoulders relaxed. His small chest lifted just a bit higher, and as the boy delivered his lines, "The oak tree stands, strong through all the seasons." William's hands came together in a quiet, gentle applause, his eyes never leaving the stage. It wasn't the kind of spotlight William was used to, but it was the one that mattered. Because in that moment, beneath the flickering school lights, surrounded by handmade paper leaves, William Parker wasn't a CEO. He wasn't a millionaire. He was simply Max's dad. And that was everything. True happiness, the narrator reminds us softly, doesn't shine from the stage of success, but from the eyes of a child who sees his father, not chasing applause, but sitting right there, clapping just for him. There are no grand finales in real life, no orchestras swelling as the credits roll. Happiness, when it comes, arrives quietly, soft as a breeze through the trees on a warm afternoon. And on this particular afternoon, beneath the wide, open sky of the same park where their story began, William, Sophia, Max, and little Lily found their version of it. No stage lights, no fanfare, just a worn, checkered blanket spread across the grass, sandwiches wrapped in brown paper, and two kids giggling as they raced to see who could find the biggest dandelion. The sun dipped gently behind the trees, casting long shadows that swayed with the wind. Somewhere nearby, a few ducks quacked lazily along the edge of the pond. The air smelled faintly of wildflowers and earth warmed by the day. William sat cross-legged, one hand resting on Sophia's, the other reaching out to steady the juice box Max nearly toppled in his excitement. His smile was soft, easy, the kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you should be. Sophia leaned into him, her head resting lightly on his shoulder, eyes half closed as she listened to the laughter of the children echoing through the trees. They didn't speak much. There was no need. The peace between them said enough. And in that simple, ordinary moment, a picnic, a patch of grass, the people who mattered most, they had everything. No mansions, no titles, no need to prove anything to the world, just love. Real, imperfect, brave love, the kind that chooses again and again to stay. The narrator's voice lingers, gentle and thoughtful. Love doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be honest, and just brave enough to face the hard parts together. It began with a mistake, the wrong table, the wrong place, at just the right time. And maybe that was exactly how it was always meant to be. So now, dear viewer, what do you believe makes love last? We'd love to hear your thoughts below. Share your heart, and if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next journey. If you've made it this far, chances are this story touched your heart in one way or another. Tell us, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? And which moment moved you the most, or simply made you smile? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We truly appreciate hearing your honest feelings. If you'd like to join us for more heartwarming, meaningful stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching and sharing this journey with us. See you in the next story.